Hello and welcome to The Best Thing Going. Today we're going to be discussing the Bloodline versus The Judgement Day, Raw 30, and what this all means for the Royal Rumble. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this past Monday on Raw, we get the Bloodline open up the show, coming out to the ring to cut a promo, and they let us know that next week at Raw 30, we're going to get an acknowledgement ceremony that will involve every generation of the Bloodline. So many people are speculating that this may include The Rock. More on that later on. They also confirmed that next week on Raw 30, they're going to be taking on the Judgement Day for the tag titles. Cue then the Judgement Day, who make their normal, awesome entrance, which sees Dom once again dressed in his Votto style prison garb. Now for those people online who keep saying that this is a bad gimmick, you do get how this works, don't you? I keep seeing people online commenting saying, are we supposed to take this seriously that Dom's been in prison? I mean, he wasn't even in prison for more than a day. Look, he wasn't in prison at all. That's the point. Like every time he mentions something about prison, it's supposed to be funny. I guess that's lost on some people, but the Judgement Day started to make their way to the ring, and I did call this several weeks ago in another video of mine where I said I thought the Judgement Day were going to be one of the next big things in WWE, and it seems I was right, as now they're working with the hottest act in the industry, the Bloodline. Now we get some great back and forth here between the two factions, and I thought the Voto Locos references and the Blood in Blood Out references from Jimmy Uso were great. But the main take home in this segment, I thought, was that the Judgement Day mentioned that they'd be taking the red Raw belts from the Bloodline, meaning we're looking at splitting these tag titles. And if they're talking about splitting them, it gives me the feeling that it's probably gonna happen, otherwise why would you mention doing it in the first place? So it leaves me with a pretty bad feeling that next week the epic reign of the Usos is going to come to an end. Now I know that a lot of people out there are kind of ready to see the Bloodline lose the gold, and they're tired of seeing the Bloodline with all the gold, but I want to point out what the Bloodline holding all the gold did for WWE. At a time where AEW had belts on every other wrestler on every other show, what WWE did was set itself apart from AEW by putting all its belts on one faction. It made those belts really special. I remember watching AEW's Forbidden Door, and every other person that walked through the curtain had a belt on, and to me it made me lose interest in AEW. I've got to be honest. I really liked AEW up until that point, but at that point I just thought nothing's special on here anymore. Everybody's got a belt. Why should I care? And at that time it seemed like WWE went in the complete opposite direction. You know, they unified the Universal Championship and the WWE Championship, they unified the Tag Championships, and it made there less champions, which elevated the champions, and it also elevated the titles. To me, having somebody hold the titles for so long means it's really gonna matter when those people eventually lose them. So imagine if Cody, for example, was to pin Roman at Mania. I mean, everybody there is gonna lose their freaking minds, aren't they? And it'll be the same if the Usos lose the titles next week on Raw. I mean, even if you don't like Judgment Day, some of you are just gonna be so happy to see a title change that you're gonna be glad anyway. Which gets me thinking about how Raw is gonna pan out next week. I mean, when are they gonna do this acknowledgement ceremony? Is it gonna be early on in the show? I would imagine so. With the Usos and the Judgment Day working in the main event, and the Judgment Day taking the titles possibly from the Usos to close the show. If that happens, I don't hate that, because I think if anybody deserves to take those titles, it probably is Judgment Day. But my feeling is we're not gonna see The Rock on Raw. What I see happening is everybody turning up for the acknowledgement ceremony and Roman feeling really disrespected that somebody very special is missing. Now that way we might actually see The Rock turn up at the Rumble, but then that begs the question, what about Cody? Now there's been rumours of Roman defending each title on separate nights at Mania, but how do we get to that? Because we can't have Cody and The Rock win the Rumble. For me, I don't really want to see The Rock there anyway. I mean, it would be great, he's a big star and all, but really, to me, I think Cody's set up to take this thing. He's the right person to be the next face of the company, I think. He's got the experience, he's got got that look, he's got that charisma, and he's got that push behind him at the minute that can give him that rocket to the moon. My ideal scenario is we see Rollins and Cody be number 1 and 2 in the Rumble, and Cody go on to win the whole thing and go to Mania and take the title. I think after having heels hold the belts for so long that you need a real feel-good babyface victory. But that's just what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. I'd really love to hear other people's opinions on how you think this whole thing could play out. So leave me a comment, maybe subscribe and like the video. That's if in fact you did like this video, but if you didn't like this video, you better learn to love it because it's the best thing going today.